Okay, so I have a bit of a qualm. Got a bit of an issue. I want to, in regards to the trading card game, there are some complexities that I need to simplify. So I was playing last night with my little sister. She was starting to get into Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit, and I told her yeah, I made a card game around the book series. And she went, "Oh, cool, I want to play." So we played last night, and while we were playing, I was trying to explain everything to her. And the more and more we were getting into it, I was like, "Yeah, some of this is just a bit much. It's needlessly complicated, because I get in my head about wanting to add this, add this, add this. I had some concepts I wanted to do two new things to the card game. I wanted to make a perk system that you unlock via an XP system. And these are just cool things I think would work if the card game was digital, where those things are automatically tracked as you go. But in a paper TCG, it's it gets bogged down a lot, and there's too many things to keep track of. So there are a few things I want to do. For one, I'm going to change the counter cards to make it just one counter card type, because there are counter block, counter evade, and then counter standard. The evade usually works with your fighter's stamina and is usually relegated to stuff like that. And then the counter block is usually taking into consideration your defense. And then the regular counter are more generic for a bunch of different types of stuff, like negating effects and shit. So I'm going to consolidate those all into just a plain counter type, because you'll run decks where it's oh, my counter blocks are good at stopping the opponent's fighter from doing damage with physical attacks. Well, if you're going up against a fighter who uses mostly magic-based attacks, then those counters are pretty much useless. So it's just one of those things where it's obviously I'm trying to test all the time. I'm trying to think of scenarios, but it's hard to think of scenarios until I'm actually in the game. Then I realize, okay, so this is bogging down gameplay. This is slowing things down too much. This is making some cards completely useless or superfluous. So I want to do that. And I also want to reduce named character card effects by reducing the number of effects. So some characters will have multiple things. I want to make it some characters don't I want to reduce the amount of stat changes that are happening, so you're not constantly writing stuff and keeping note of stat changes. So I want to reduce the number of effects that a fighter has in their built-in text that increase or decrease status effects or status points. I was also debating on just getting rid of stat points altogether and just having your combat power. That would make writing out your character's numbers at the start of a game a lot simpler, but if I did that, I would have to rework so many cards, because so many cards will have stipulations or mention stat points in a way. So if I got rid of those, then that would basically make half the card pool need to be remade and adjusted, which would be a huge undertaking. So I think as far as complexity's sake goes, I want to reduce the number of effects on fighter and ally cards and simplify them. I want to change counter cards to only be standard counter without having any deviations or any specifications. And I also want to, I think, just get rid of the defender zone entirely. Which I'd have to change some card text throughout, but mostly considering just some instance and fighter cards. So, and I would just remove the defender text from the ally cards. Maybe switch some of those effects with the standard, but getting rid of the defender zone altogether, because that's a whole other mechanic when it comes to using support actions and getting your one support action per turn and having to manage that between moving cards between zones. So I think I would get rid of the defender zone, and maybe in that case, I would either yes or no, I would add another support zone, or just leave it as it is. I'd probably leave it as it is, because managing those 3 zones is, well, I think maybe adding one more zone could work. I don't know. It's tough, because I'm also trying to conserve board space. But I was also debating on getting rid of the instant zone, because they don't need a zone to place a card that gets used instantly. So you just kind of you declare it from your hand, and it goes straight to the discard zone, and the instant zone itself would be pretty useless. So in that case, that would be 2 zones I'm removing and decluttering some card effects, decluttering the board a little bit, and just trying to simplify it a little bit more and make it so there's less stuff to try to keep track of, less nuance. And because there's more than enough things to already have to keep track of, like turn counters and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm going to slowly start working on that. I'm going to sift through my cards, kind of move cards into folders that are designated need to be changed and adjusted, and then try to iron those things out. Because I haven't done a card release in a while, a card update. And a lot has changed since I last made them available for sale. And this will just be another thing before I put them up again. So I'm going to work on that. And yeah, I think it'll help a lot with the overall flow of the game.